This is The Minimum Commitment, film theory in small doses, where jet lag feels like heartbreak and silence says more than dialogue. I'm Donn Lawler, film scholar, sound obsessive, and a man who's been up at 3 a.m. in a hotel room wondering, what the hell happens next? Let's get into it. The first time I saw Lost in Translation, I just sat still. Something about it made me feel like I had just remembered a dream I wasn't ready to forget. It wasn't sad, exactly, but it wasn't peaceful either. It lingered. It pressed on the chest. Sometimes the scariest feeling isn't being alone. It's being surrounded and still unseen. We are discussing this film through a few lenses. Postmodern dislocation, where globalism and hyper-connected cities still leave people emotionally stranded. Masculinity studies, in particular, the quiet panic of middle-aged irrelevance. And existentialism, the question of meaning in a world that refuses to give you a script. What does it mean to feel invisible in a world that once recognized you? In a city like Tokyo, where neon lights blur into endless motion and strangers pass without a glance, the streets themselves seem to mirror the inner disorientation of its characters, reflecting their sense of being unmoored and unseen. And when language finally fails, when words no longer bridge the distance between people, what remains is the raw, aching presence of silence, and the quiet hope that simply being there might still be enough. Bill Murray plays Bob Harris, a fading movie star. He's flown to Tokyo to sell whiskey in a city that doesn't know or care who he is. He's greeted by a neon-drenched foreign city, language barriers, cultural confusion, but no real hostility. Just indifference. In the clubs, on the set, in the elevator, he's out of place everywhere. Bob isn't just lost in translation, he's lost in masculinity. A version of it that promised success, power, and identity. Now, none of it fits. He's aged out of the role he built his life around. No more leading man. No more commercial charm. Just a fading echo of who he once was, and a marriage that reminds him daily of what he no longer is. Masculinity told him to be strong, silent, and certain. But Bob's not certain of anything anymore. Not his worth, not his future, not his place in the world. And that silence, the one he's supposed to keep, it's starting to drown him. He's a man watching his own reflection dissolve. Scarlett Johansson plays Charlotte, a woman in her 20s, newly married, adrift. Charlotte doesn't have a fated role to mourn. She's still waiting for one to feel authentic. On paper, everything looks right, but no one tells you what to do with that. No one teaches you how to build meaning from comfort, how to move forward when the world says you already have everything. She's caught between expectations and aimlessness. Told she's lucky, but still feels invisible. Told she has choices, but none of them feel like her own. Her husband works while she waits. She wanders temples, listens to monks chant, stares out windows. She tries ikebana, Japanese flower arrangement, a practice rooted in stillness, balance, and intention. But her flowers refuse to cooperate. No symmetry, no beauty, just another thing that doesn't click. Where Bob aches for a past slipping away, Charlotte aches for a future that refuses to arrive. Bob fears he's lost his meaning. Charlotte's terrified she never had one. Tokyo becomes a metaphor for everything they can't say. Not just because of the language barrier, but because the words they need have gone stale. Words like, I'm lost, I'm tired, I don't know who I am. They've all been said before, worn thin by greeting cards, therapy brochures, and phone calls that get put on hold. Charlotte tries to explain herself to a friend back home, but life carries on in other time zones. She gets cut off, discarded, because nothing big is wrong. Bob, on the other hand, numbs it down. Whiskey, hotel bars, a one-night stand with a no-name jazz singer. But when he meets Charlotte, something shifts. They don't fall into each other. They drift slowly, side by side. The connection is quiet. Earned. Tokyo surrounds them with contradictions. It's too loud to sleep in, too foreign to relax in, too fast to keep up with, yet somehow it slows them down. In a city where nothing makes sense, they are finally free to stop making sense of themselves. No one is watching, no one is judging. They are strangers in a place that doesn't ask questions, and in that obscurity, something fragile begins to grow. No one back home really sees them. Not their spouses, not their friends, not even themselves. But here, in the flicker of bar lights and elevator rides, they see each other. Not as roles, not as problems to solve, as people adrift who just needed someone to say, I see you. I'm here too. In Tokyo, no one asks questions. No one expects answers. So they hide together. They sit on the bed and watch TV. They walk through arcades and sing karaoke. They make each other laugh. And for a while, they don't have to explain anything. They're not falling in love. They're finding a space where nothing has to be defined. Sometimes clarity doesn't come from knowing where you are. It comes from knowing you're not alone in being lost. Bob does sleep with someone, but not Charlotte. It's a moment of loneliness, not betrayal. A last gasp of a man trying to feel something. Anything. And then the morning comes. Charlotte is hurt. Bob is ashamed. But they don't part in anger, because Lost in Translation isn't about conflict. It's about proximity. What it means to share space with someone who sees you, really sees you. That's what makes the final whisper so powerful. Whatever he says, it isn't for us, but we feel the weight of it. And that's enough. There's no romance to return to, no future promised, no epilogue. But for two people on the edge of themselves, a few nights in Tokyo meant everything. You don't always need a reason to feel whole. Sometimes it just takes the right silence, shared by the right person. And when it's over, you carry the echo of that moment as proof that once upon a time, you were real to someone. That's your thought for the day. Minimum commitment, maximum meaning. See you next time. The Minimum Commitment is produced, recorded, and edited by Donn Lawler. Music by Itamar.